for taking time. I know with COVID and work schedules and family schedules, thank you guys so much for joining in here today and giving me a little of your attention. I hope that if there's anything you take from this presentation, that's exactly what it is, that it gives a little bit of hope, or maybe even just camaraderie. And my prayer really is that that you would know from the start, all of this information it will be provided to you. I'm happy to send it out after, myself or Bibby or Cindy McMinn, your patient care navigator. We'll make sure you get this information, but the main point here is that you have a family. You are not alone in anything, whether you're someone with Parkinson's or a caregiver. And this is going to be a little bit of just some street smarts, kind of things I talk about regularly that I want to go over for the masses, and then hope that you would share it with someone else. So let's get going. We're going to cover a few things here. Let's see if I can progress this. There we go. So we're going to first, we're talking about 4 things. What can you control? So what's within your grasp, and then we'll do that specific to evidence regarding exercise, and then go over a couple of options. The second thing we'll talk about is how can you contribute, right? We're a family, families contribute. So we'll go over some research opportunities, some support groups, the way to participate in those, both as an attendee, as an organizer, facilitator, leader. We'll talk about the movement-based community that's around you here on the local level, and then other ways to find out things more nationally. Thirdly, we're going to talk about who should be on your team. This is something, if you've ever stepped foot in my physical therapy clinic or really engaged in any community activities in relation to Parkinson's, you'll hear a lot of people often say, well, I didn't know I needed a speech therapist, or I didn't know I needed, whomever. We'll go over who should be on your care team. And then fourth, we're going to lastly talk about just some practical contacts. I hear so often in the clinic, well, people say they're always there, but how do I get a hold of them? We're going to answer that today. In no way is this exhaustive, but it is going to serve as a little bit of a launching point, okay? So let's first start with what you can control. There are over 7,000 articles on exercise and Parkinson's disease. I've pulled 3 that I think really show a lot of pertinent information that I would like to review today. So the first article was selectively chosen because a randomized controlled trial is a very strong level of evidence, okay? You're comparing an active group of participants against maybe a control or placebo group. As you can see in this article that I've selected here, we're going to look at exercise and Parkinson's. This is actually a systematic review of several randomized controlled trials. And then to take it a step further, they've run a meta-analysis on this. So a lot of people have heard of Cochrane reviews. This is actually one of your highest levels of evidence in regards to articles that you can get. And I want to stress the importance of this evidence, because the findings of this article, if you'll glance ahead at number 3 here, are that no studies included in this meta-analysis. So meta-analysis looking at the systematic review of several randomized controlled trials. What does that mean? An umbrella on top of an umbrella on top of an umbrella. They all agree that no study found a deterioration in any outcomes for any exercise therapy that a participant completed. And so this article was looking at exercise therapies that included resistance training, endurance training, and other modalities. And they found that all exercise that was examined in these articles, when it was performed correctly, was feasible and safe. And then it actually increased muscle strength in patients specifically with Parkinson's disease. And so the take-home layman's terms of this is be encouraged that exercise, when performed correctly and safely, is only of benefit to you, okay? You're not gonna it's not a waste of time investment. And so most of you have heard from multiple providers, and if not, hear me clear. Move, move, move. Movement is wonderful for all of us, but especially in patients with Parkinson's, okay? That's one of the ways you can take control. The second of the 3 articles I want to review here is, again, this looked at 25 randomized controlled trials, and they're looking now specifically at the effects on exercise for people with Parkinson's in relation to falls, balance, and gait, okay? As a physical therapist, I help people all the time, really trying to do whatever they can do. And most of you have heard me say, I would do anything in my power to keep you off the floor. And so when we're talking about falls and balance and gait, what's interesting about this, again, meta-analysis, so, high level of evidence, is that they found specifically that facility-based training produced greater effects for patients who had Parkinson's disease on their long-term effects of balance and gait, and this prevented falls. So when you have that the author speculates, when you have this accountability and you have someone there guiding you, coaching you, making sure the quality of your movements is completed correctly, there is a higher level of evidence that you will have a decreased risk of falls, you'll have improved balance and improved gait quality. The last article I want to talk about here is really important. I feel like this is an area that clinically I get to spend a lot of time with my patients. When you go and see your neurologist or your nurse practitioner, your doctor, they have a lot of very valuable information to deliver and to get from you in a very short amount of time. And so when we get to do therapy for 4 visits a week for 4 weeks, or 2 visits a week for 12 weeks, we get to spend hours together. And so one of the things we talk about so much in the clinic are what motivates you, or even more in depth, what are some of your barriers? And I wanted to really validate people who may be listening today, or know others who, if we're really honest with ourselves, and even me included as someone who does not have Parkinson's, I vary day to day in my levels of motivation. And you want to throw, COVID, or I like to call her Rona, short for Corona. If you want to throw Rona on top of this, there are a lot of barriers that each of us face every day in getting moving. And then combine that with Parkinson's disease, I hope to validate you to know that every day is not the same, but you are worth it. You are worth exercise. You are worth movement. And so I chose this article because they specifically compared exercise habits for people who were high exercisers, more than 3 times a week, or those who were low exercisers, meaning 2 or less exercise regimens a week. And why this is important is they found that there were significant differences between people who are high exercisers or low exercisers in regards to their barriers and motivating factors. And the reason that this was important is if you were previously, before finding out about Parkinson's disease, if you were exercising high already, you are more likely to increase your exercise after diagnosis. If before you found out you had Parkinson's disease, you were exercising 2 times a week or less, they found that those who were low exercisers were more likely to reduce their level of activity. And I actually practiced this presentation on a friend and patient of mine who I'll quote later, Beth Hurd. And she helped me see kind of the street smarts of the application of this is it can feel discouraging. If you're already fighting to do everything you can and you get told that you have Parkinson's, it can feel really discouraging. However, this article found that both groups, the high and the low exercisers, both groups benefited from having a significant other or a personal trainer motivate them, and both then were more likely to complete exercise. In addition to that, they were more likely to complete exercise if their neurologist encouraged them to do so. And so if there are any neurologists listening, or if any catch wind of this presentation, or if you go see your neurologist next, what language they use is very impactful on people who get diagnosed with Parkinson's. If you're encouraged by your doctor to move, there's statistical evidence that you're more likely to do it. And so as a physical therapist, I want you to hear that if a significant other or a personal trainer is with you, you're more likely to be active. I will be that person for you. And if you're not in the Birmingham area, find a physical therapist who will be that person for you. So this is a very inclusive but not exhaustive list of exercise options. These are some good launching points, and I'm not going to read each of these, but this is a little bit more Birmingham or locally applicable. But a lot of you have heard of PD Fight Club. Martin Morris does a great job, even through COVID, in transitioning a lot of his classes, both online and in person. We have Rock Steady Boxing here in Birmingham, LSVT Big with a physical therapist. Lakeshore actually has been amazing during COVID. A friend of mine who's out in Florida right now, she's, just avoiding COVID, relaxing at the beach. And she was so kind to invite me to spend a few days with her. She actually shared with me that Lakeshore mailed out cycle, like, I'm not using the correct word, but basically a stationary bike cycle, bands, and a strengthening regimen. And so communities all around, people want to help keep one another moving. So explore these exercise options. The next slide here, this is what you want to focus on. So one size does not fit all for exercise. The evidence we just reviewed shows that facility-based training with an accountability partner and keeping yourself moving is what's most effective in slowing down or stopping the progression of Parkinson's disease. It's what you can do to be proactive, okay? So remember these tips. Find something fun. Switch it up. Sometimes you'll go through a season of change and you'll want to mix and match. Maybe hot outside and you like to do a walking program. Well, maybe in the summer months, you transition to water aerobics at Lakeshore, or once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, you're going to participate in the big program of therapy. I advise you to include other people. The research supports accountability yields improved outcomes. For me, I'm very successful when I write down a goal and I place it somewhere where I can see it consistently. So if I know, I want to make sure that I save $1,000 by June, it's easy to say, but to make something measurable and then write it down and set it somewhere where I see it and interact with it regularly will make it real. So I want to work out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays for 30 minutes. Write it down and put it somewhere you see it. Remember, when you're hearing this presentation, it's easy to be like, oh, I can't write it all down or take a picture fast enough. I will provide this for anyone interested. You can email me there at that middle link, Elliott@benchmark-pt, or you can contact the Alabama Parkinson's Association. We'll make sure you get all the contact information. But these are some launching points. This is, again, not exhaustive, but this is a good starting spot. Locally, we have the Alabama Association. More on the national level, the Parkinson's Foundation is actually, during this time with COVID, they're helping at total free to help you find a dance or a boxing class near you based on your location. If you give them a call, that's available through Zoom or online to make sure that people have options even in their own home, okay? So next, let's talk about how you can contribute. There are a lot of local research options here in town. So I actually, Alan Jupe introduced, I know that he's recently entered med school, for those of you that know him, but he has kind of managed the research at UAB over the last few years. And so he showed me this link. And if you click on this link, you don't have to enter any information about yourself per se, but there are 7 current trials at UAB, where if you just enter the name of your diagnosis, I typed in Parkinson's disease. It allowed me to look for different trials there, and that can be updated regularly. So there could be 13 in a week, or there could be 3 in a week, but checking on that regularly, you can find out if you qualify for participating in any local research trials. Laura Lieb is a amazing contact for us here locally. Her contact information is there. She's actually, this is public information, she is our representative through the American Parkinson's Disease Association. She's our Alabama rep, so she's also very involved with research and can help guide you. And then Dr. Standert is the department chair at UAB, and he is deeply involved in research. And I was very, very fortunate before opening this Parkinson's clinic here to get to spend about a week with them in their clinics. And they're the most compassionate and caring providers to hear their research and the way they're trying to better themselves and better. They're trying to eliminate Parkinson's. They're trying to get themselves out of a job. I've heard Dr. Standard say that multiple times. And they really walk that walk, both with patient care and behind the scenes. So feel free to reach out to them and they can help direct you as well. On the national level, this is the American Parkinson's Disease Association. When you go to this website, I put a big blue arrow here. Click on this research link. I could talk for 5 hours about the different projects they're working on, grants they're working on. This, you can get lost in this. Have fun. It's a great website. So another way that you can help be proactive and have a little, remember this is all relating back to hope and what you can control, is get involved in support groups. And so I'm going to give a little plug here on one of our own, a wife of a patient of ours who I have permission to share, Miss Vevelin. She's actually created a helpmate support group. And so she's going to be leading that starting in September. And this is there's already a support group that John Bennett runs wonderfully for men with Parkinson's disease, but there hasn't been one for women. And so this is specifically for, she uses the word helpmates. This is specifically for women who are married to someone who has Parkinson's disease. And so we have information on that here. You can reach out to us and get that. She's starting that, I believe, September 8th. But if you go to the Alabama Parkinson's Association website, you can click on that link right there where it says support groups and enter your area or your geographical locations that you'd want to meet, and it will tell you what groups are available. And some of them are for patients with Parkinson's, some are for caregivers or helpmates, some are just for men, women, co-ed, movement-based. There's an array, okay? So anything you're looking for, you can find there if it exists, but I want to encourage you a step further. You have an amazing resource in Cindy McMinn. She's a former nurse, and she's volunteers and absolutely gives her whole heart in her role as the patient care navigator. She volunteers information readily. She is full of it and so quick to give it. She's been a blessing to me. And so if you see on there that there's not something in your area that you're looking for, I still encourage you to reach out to Cindy at PD Navigator at PD Link, that email right there. And she can guide you even further, because there could be 2 to 3 other people that are looking for the same area that have also inquired from her, and she can match you. And so she's very attention to detail. Use her as a free resource for you. She's a great launching pad for information to get involved. On the national level, you have the American Parkinson's Disease Association. And again, I've kind of already mentioned this, but Laura Lieb is our local contact for that. But there's representation from every state. So if you're going to go live with your grandson for 3 months in Wyoming, get involved. Go there and they can set you up with a support group in Wyoming. I want to insert a few testimonials here, and this is Evelyn, who's actually going to be starting the Helpmates support group. But I asked her, hey, Bev, what has given you the most hope throughout your PD journey in serving as a helpmate? And she kind of shared this with me, this quote here. So Evelyn, she said, I have grown more hopeful by surrounding myself and my husband in community activities. The hope I have gained has come through boxing 3 days a week and physical therapy 2 days a week, because I can remember where my husband began and where he is now. I see improvements in his walking, his voice quality, and overall an increase in his engagement. These community-based programs have allowed us to feel hopeful for what is coming in the future in regards to medications and treatments. I don't know where we would be without these things. And so to kind of piggyback off of that, let's talk about some of the benefits to community. I think that community is a wonderful thing, and I see it in my clinic every day. We have our own little mini microscopic community here, but Birmingham has a macroscopic community, and we're very, very rich with very knowledgeable people in regards to Parkinson's disease, people that have been diagnosed and having victory over Parkinson's for 20 years or sometimes 20 days. And so blending this can only yield positivity, right? It's going to give us all hope. And so I think community, some of the benefits, again, not exhaustive, but a launching pad that's listed here: accountability, consistency. It gives you an opportunity to be supported and to serve as in a supporting role for someone else. I think that a lot of the times people, they feel isolated and alone, and I want to smash right now, that is a lie. That is a lie of Parkinson's. Every single person is unique, but they are not alone. Okay, so not one size fits all, but there is camaraderie in our community. I'll come back to the neuroplasticity point because that's a highlight of mine personally, but I think that one of the ideas to implement community is meet for a walk and talk. Now we're accomplishing part 1, movement with community, with getting involved, that walk and talk, develop friendship. And to do that, make a plan, develop a routine. You want to have specific day or days, Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We're going to meet at the Lakeshore Trail at 10 a.m. I want to talk a little bit about neuroplasticity. So a good friend of mine, Jim Freeman, he and I met for lunch a few months back, and he shared with me Dr. Carolyn Leaf has a 21-day detox, and I very passionately believe in what she recommends. She and I both implement very similar things in the clinic. And I'll talk a little bit more about my personal implementation, but neuroplasticity is basically the brain's ability to create pathways of use. So you're either using something and building it, or you're not using it and weakening it. And I say that because if you if you constantly are in a place, which is very normal for Parkinson's, of I don't want to get out of bed today, they won't notice if I don't go to therapy. That thought can easily take captive and create a pathway, a validated pathway of success in your brain if we allow it to. And so the 21-day detox and a lot of the methods that I like to implement here in this clinic is take that thought, which is a very realistic thought. It's not true. You know, I'm not worth getting out of bed today. They won't notice if I'm not there. And say, I am worth getting out of bed today. Today's an opportunity to improve. I have an appointment. People are expecting me to be there. I always feel better when I leave there. And basically you're taking this thought that could be destructive and rerouting it into a place of positivity that creates a positive feed forward loop. And the 21-day detox does this beautifully because it makes you write down or pinpoint one thing. And then you have to basically, if it's a negative, falsify that. Or what I like to do with a lot of my patients is say they've completed the 4 times a week for 4 weeks, the LSVT big program. As soon as they discharge, I either see people continue and do really well, or they immediately decline because they stop doing the movements at the same standard that they have here in the clinic. And I personally believe that when I have someone who says, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, and they say, no, I'm worth it, I have to do it today, they create a positive feed forward loop, and they start to neuroplastically create their brain to train themselves into a habit of yielding positive results. And so not one size doesn't fit all, but I really, I feel like the brain is one of the most unique faith building organs or parts of the body for me. And I know that every day we're either creating positive loops or negative loops. And I just encourage you to exercise and move. It's linked to positivity. Get involved in your community, linked to positivity. I honestly could probably talk 9 hours about neuroplasticity. So if you're ever bored and want to have lunch, pull a Jim Freeman. You can buy me lunch and I'll talk to you about neuroplasticity. Third, we're going to talk a little bit about who should be on your PD management team. And I use that language very specifically because PD is something that we do manage. We want to take control over. I like to tell my new patients when I meet them, one of the things that I think makes them feel understood is Parkinson's likes to tell you that it's in control of your body. So you're telling your foot to move and it doesn't want to move. That is exactly going back to neuroplasticity. It's the wrong direction on the loop. That's Parkinson's telling your brain it's in control, and it's not true. So tell that loop, how can I control it? How can I neuroplastically rewire that? I'm in charge of my body. My foot will move and I'm going to stomp it. And all of a sudden the body is now listening to the brain. The brain's in charge again. And so I say PD management team because I want you to be managing your Parkinson's, not your Parkinson's to be managing you. One of the things we get asked a lot here in the clinic is what are the different names of these providers? And so I find it important to go over these things because these are kind of the street smarts things I get asked often. So a neurologist, just kind of quick overview, is a doctor who specializes in treating the nervous system. A movement disorder specialist is a neurologist who has completed an additional 2-year fellowship specific to movement disorders. And so some of these movement disorders can be Parkinson's or Parkinsonisms, because there's an umbrella of very similar diagnoses there. Tourette's, Huntington's disease, essential tremor. Each of those are unique and different, but they all are studied exclusively in this 2-year fellowship with movement disorder specialists. And then a CRNP. People ask me all the time, what's my CRNP? So this is an advanced practice nurse who performs the functions of a physician. They can make medical diagnoses, order lab tests, they diagnose imaging studies, they can prescribe medications. And like I alluded to earlier, I've had the blessing of shadowing and following Laura Lieb here, a certified nurse practitioner here in Birmingham. And I learned so much from her and her ability to sit down and see small changes that maybe I never would have ever noticed. She steers into them, and she is someone who I feel like I really got an opportunity to see her connect well with patients because she had seen them over time, and so she can notice small and different unique changes. So I really encourage you, this is the vocabulary definition of this slide, but I think these are great assets to have on your PD management team because, and I understand sometimes people move and you have to get new providers, but the street smart tip here is it's really helpful to have your team over time, because they can see if anything changes, or if you need any additional help with mood or affect, which we'll talk about later, or if new research comes out, they're able to see, hey, I know you, John Smith, you would qualify great for this. Other people you should have on your PD management team. This is often, again, kind of the avoided topic here, but it's extremely important, is psychological care. I want to preface by saying that I participate in psychological care because I want to be fresh for each of my patients, and I want to be able to give my whole heart and do that consistently for weeks and months and years. And it has really helped me to put into words how I'm feeling, and then to take an action plan in directing that negative loop into a positive loop. And I think there's power and strength in admitting that there are other people in the world that know more things than us and can help us to improve ourselves. And I think that's true for everyone forever. Now, that's my personal opinion, but I'm a huge advocate of lifetime learning. And I think that there is strength in admitting that you are open to receiving help. And so you'll see here, all of these start with help, help, and help. Psychological care is really important for specifically to the population of Parkinson's, because there's a lot of research that ties in depression and apathy and different psychological diagnoses with Parkinson's disease. So specifically the differences between these three, as a neuropsychologist, is someone who really helps the study of the relationships between behavior, emotion, and cognition. I want to highlight here a marital counselor. This is important. When one person in a marriage has Parkinson's disease, both people in the marriage have Parkinson's disease. You may not actually have it in your body, but it affects your marriage because you are a partnership. And so marital counseling is something that I have seen work wonders for a lot of my patients. It helps couples to recognize and really learn different common language to be able to resolve any conflicts or overcome challenges with the goal of improving their relationship. And then individual counseling helps people, like I kind of shared with you guys and have confessed, I just didn't have the best way of processing things I needed to process. And so when you get told that you have Parkinson's disease and it's a progressive neurological disease, that's a lot to process. And I encourage people as they wrestle with that to learn skilled tools to processing what that looks like. And so I think that I'll have contacts at the end of this of kind of who to reach out to get connected with counselors and psychologists. But this is a huge impactful piece of the care team here. I have a little silliness here, but you are not crazy. So I pulled this article. I think the title can be a little negative here, of psychiatric syndrome in Parkinson's disease, but don't get caught up in that, because I want to be clear here that I want to validate. I clinically meet individuals who are so hard on themselves. I often have a spouse who maybe can't understand what's happening to my partner, or there's fear regarding a lot of these mood changes. And I want to validate that this is not because you're a bad person. This is not because you are a bad Parkinson's patient or person with Parkinson's. There are changes that occur in the brain with Parkinson's disease, and we know that. And this is a commonality that some people have, not everyone. But the purpose of this study was that standardized criteria should really be used to diagnose someone that has depression or apathy in Parkinson's disease. So I want to coach people to be really caring and understanding. It's easy to say, oh, I think he has depression, or, oh, I think she's depressed. That's why she doesn't want to go. And this article was really heavy in saying there are actually standardized criteria, outcome measures that should be used by medical doctors to diagnose depression. And then it went a step further and shared that counseling, like we talked about, psychotherapy and pharmacotherapy, so the use of skilled and prescribed medicines by your doctor, your neurologist, are the most useful treatment modalities for affective disorders in Parkinson's disease. And I say all of this to say it is real. It does happen. You are worth getting help. It should be standardized, and the criteria should be standardized. It should be done by a healthcare professional. And please know that there are options. One of the testimonials I included here is I asked One of my patients, Miss Beth Hurd, who is, we kind of talked about the research earlier, definitely considered a high exerciser. She's very, very active. I asked her, Beth, what has given you the most hope throughout your Parkinson's disease journey? And she answered me beautifully and said, exercise and its ability to slow the progress of the disease, and then mindfulness medication because of its ability to keep me from worrying. And she has just been someone that has been so encouraging to me. It's normal. We all have days where you just don't want to. And that's even harder sometimes with Parkinson's. But how beautiful is it when we all have community and we rewire that message and say, I am worth it. I am going to do it today. And today's a little harder than it was yesterday, but it might be a little easier than tomorrow. And I'm going to tackle it and I'm going to give it my best. And so that is a normal thing. Community helps you do that. And having a therapist or a counselor on your team can help you discover the tools how to do that well. The next person I want to kind of just review is a speech language pathologist. They can be on your team. Again, not everyone has issues with speech or swallowing. I don't want the message to be here, I need all of these providers because I have all of these problems. No. This is the opposite. If there are any identified problems that you ever experience, I want you to know where to go to get help. So speech language pathologists can help with speech volume, communication challenges, swallowing difficulty. These are all very common things that I hear about here. And I joke with my patients when I start to hear them, when they get tired and their volume starts decreasing, I'm like, hey, please speak up. I want to have the choice of ignoring you, kind of kidding. But an occupational therapist is a great person to have on your team as well. They will really help you with kind of your, what we call ADLs, activities of daily living. So they can specialize in things. I'm trying to think of some common things I see that I refer to OT. So some challenges with writing, font size, or dressing, or putting toothpaste on the toothbrush. I have a patient who worked with an occupational therapist for a few years because he wanted to continue working as an electrician. He was in kind of the prime of his career, making great money, and he was ready to retire in about 2 years. But in order to excel at the same pace for those 2 years, he worked really hard in OT 2 to 3 times a week so he could thread the fine motor. I'm not going to pretend to know what he did, but the fine motor skills he needed to be able to do to serve as an electrician, and he did really well in getting to his retirement at his desired time. Another person that I encourage you to have on your care team is a physical therapist. And if you're not here local, I'd be happy to connect you with a physical therapist in your area. Again, please use Cindy McMinn, our Alabama Patient Care Navigator, to help get you connected. She has a huge resource center. I mean, if you want to participate in physical therapy, we will help you find the right person. And so physical therapists help with movement. They help with exercise, hands-on care, pain management, manual therapy. There's a lot that they can help assist with. Nutrition is something that comes up a lot in our clinic. So a lot of people with Parkinson's are taking carbidopa-levodopa, which is a medicine for Parkinson's to help with fluidity of movement and kind of combating some of the stiffness. And one of the things I learned at the symposium a few years ago from Christine Ferguson, who was a nutritionist that spoke, is she taught me that that levodopa and protein can adversely mix with one another. And so that's been something, it's been great to help my patients when I notice, like, if they come every day at 9, they look one way, but every day that they come at 1, they seem like a different person. I sometimes know to ask, well, what are you eating for lunch? And chicken salad. Okay, well, what time did you take your medicine? With my chicken salad. Well, a nutritionist can help you understand the influence of protein in the medicines you're taking, or nutrition in the medicines you're taking, and how your body can absorb both the nutrients as well as the medication. And so she actually taught me that protein kind of negatively impacts the absorption of levodopa, and it's crossing the blood-brain barrier. And so she advised that I coach my patients to take levodopa 30 minutes before they eat or 2 hours after, so they can get the best benefit. And it's hard now. You're talking about taking medicine 6 times a day sometimes and eating 3 times, or depending on your diet. So you have to time these things, and a nutritionist can really help you create an active, proactive plan that, again, this all relates back to having hope. What can you do? Reach out to a nutritionist. Another thing we don't talk about a lot is some street smarts here. I get a lot of people that struggle with constipation. And so here are some kind of unmentionables, but also some tricks for that. Warm prune juice, decaffeinated, warm tea, physical activity, things like that, warm coffee, those kinds of things can help with constipation. Be careful with your caffeine intake. But I think talking with your doctor about getting plugged in with a nutritionist or talking with a nutritionist about your diet can really help set you up for some success. Here are some links if you want to learn more about nutrition. I personally, this was an area of weakness for me, so I encourage you to do more research here. I learned a lot. Lastly, I want to give some contact points here. So the last thing we're going to talk about is who can guide you and answer questions. I want to preface by saying that although I prepared for this presentation over the last few weeks, there is no way I can include every single contact person here in town. And so there's an abundance. I'm giving you launching pads, okay? But I wanted to highlight one person here who has been very helpful for me in putting into words and writing a lot of the things that I was implementing in the clinic. Julie Rousseau, she wrote an article on, she titled it, "I have Parkinson's, but Parkinson's doesn't have me." And these are 10 practical steps that you can take to live with the disease and enjoy your life. And so this is Julie's email here. It's pdpals12345@yahoo.com. And if you email Julie, she's so graciously offered to send a copy of that article, these 10 practical steps, to you. It's totally free. She's one of the most positive people I've ever met, and former college softball player. So she has a very athletic background, and she's someone who I have truly seen fight and succeed over Parkinson's well. And now just a normal person like the rest of us, challenges, sure, but very positive article here that I love that, you know, Parkinson's doesn't have us. We can control Parkinson's. And so here are, after that spotlight, here are some more practical contacts. If you are not in Birmingham, I should have put this on there, but I'll say it slow. LSVT Global is a great website to go to, lsvtglobal.com. You can look up register or certified LSVT big and loud therapists, both physical and speech therapists. If for any reason you need access to that link or have trouble looking on it, email me and I'll send it back to you. But it's a national database. Actually, I think it's a global database for anyone certified in Parkinson's disease management. And so when you need a physical therapist, that's a good launching pad as well. Laura Lieb practices at UAB, but she's also, like I said earlier, the American Parkinson's Disease Association representative, and she can help you connect you with a neurologist, a movement disorder specialist. That's her email there. Your neurologist is who would give you a referral to PT, OT, or speech as well. I got to give it the third time. Can't say this enough. You have a patient care navigator through the Alabama Association, Cindy McMahon, who is an invaluable resource. She can connect you just about to anything you need. And if she doesn't know it right then, she'll get right back to you. She's helped me numerous times in diversifying a lot of my contacts as well. Our executive director of the Alabama Parkinson's Association, Bibby Bailey, she can also serve as a launching pad for questions and answers. She's very knowledgeable. She has a ton of experience. I mean, I remember when I met her, I had just briefly even heard about what she had done for the Red Cross, and I salute her. So please reach out to her with any questions you have. Nutritionist, this came to my attention recently, but Christine Ferguson is who I typically refer patients to for additional information, but I believe she's undergoing a pretty large project right now, so we can connect you with other nutritionists if there's any reason that you have a hard time getting in contact with one. And I actually have a PowerPoint of hers that Mary T. Miller, the former executive director of the Alabama Parkinson's Association, gave me that I have permission to give to some of my patients. And I've been sharing that presentation on diet and its impact with Parkinson's medication. If you're interested in that, email. And then Laura Lieb connected me with a couple of counselors that she often refers to that work specifically with people who have Parkinson's and other neuro needs. So Dr. Christopher Litton is there at UAB, and then Dr. Christy Yarbrough, she specifically works with people who are navigating chronic neurological conditions. And so I believe personally that there is strength in admitting that you need assistance, and that you want to learn tools to improve yourself and better yourself. And so here are a couple, again, not exhaustive, but starting kind of launching points. All right, so let's summarize what we've kind of talked about today. I think I'm doing okay on time. What can you control? Movement. We saw that the research says move, 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 move. And I want to preface by saying, or I want to be very clear here. I've had a patient who was 97 years old with Parkinson's disease, and he was in a wheelchair and blind, and he still found ways to kick me as he was moving and punching and grooving. And then I've had someone as young as in their young 40s. And so there can be people who are anywhere along the spectrum of age, the spectrum of ability, the spectrum of mobility. Movement is movement, and it doesn't matter how much or how little. The research supports that any investment into movement is time well spent. It's an investment you'll see a return on. Some key tips are have accountability, have it be somewhere where you're creating a regimen, something fun. The second thing we talked about is how you can contribute, getting involved, support groups, community, participating in classes. Who should be on your team? Everyone. The main point here is just to know, yes, every single person with Parkinson's, every caregiver is unique. Every situation is unique, but you are definitely not alone. And so don't let that lie. Don't let that negative loop, derail you. There are people that want to help, that want to serve, that want to connect. And then who can guide you or answer questions? How can you learn more? Again, we would be glad to provide this this presentation. I gave a lot of good contacts for launching points. I think the Alabama Parkinson's Association is a great way to get started. You can go to their website and then just ask, keep asking questions. Here are the articles that I referenced here, and you're welcome to look them up. I think they're good reads. There, again, are 7,900, almost 8,000, just specific to Parkinson's and exercise. So I think PubMed is a great place to go and do a little reading research. And then here is my kind of closing slide, and we're going to have a lot of the questions that you can submit in the comments here, or you can email afterwards. But if you have any questions, feel free to email me. If you have any comments, feel free to email me. Any concerns, feel free to email me. If you want to congratulate me on getting proposed to and marrying the absolute cutest man in the whole wide world, my high school and college sweetheart, for sure email me. I'll definitely answer the questions, the comments, and the congrats, and I'll just ignore the concerns. I'm totally kidding, but feel free to reach out to me. And if you guys ever need anything, just let us know how we can serve you. I really appreciated this opportunity to talk. So I want to thank, I know they're watching, Bibby, the executive director, for letting me have this platform. And I wish everyone